Present.
Councillor Fleet,
Present.
Councillor Hawking,
Present.
and Councillor Cable.
Present.
All here and accounted for.
Thank you. Good evening, council, staff, guests, and our viewing public and the media. Council, does anyone have a disclosure of pecuniary interest or a conflict of interest? I don't see any, and of course, if one should arise during the meeting, you may declare it then. On our agenda this evening, item 3, we do not have any additions or deletions for the agenda. And item 4 is our health and safety message, which is brought to us by Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's quite appropriate. It's titled Slips and Falls. Injuries due to falls are one of the most common household hazards. In fact, 1 out of every 5 older adults who falls incurs a broken bone or a head injury. Wet floors, slippery stairs, and scattered toys all create the potential for falls. To help prevent a slip or fall, remember to check the following. Number 1, make sure staircases have solid handrails. Secure affects flooring. Repair any loose boards, treads, or carpet. Number 3, provide adequate lighting. Install safety gates if there are small children in the home. 5, keep stairs clear of any tripping hazards. For example, don't place laundry basket or on or near stairs or steps, Remove ice and snow on indoor stairs. Outdoor, pardon me. Cover slippery surfaces in bathrooms. Install supports in showers and bathtubs. And finally, corral toys. Even a small toy can be a tripping hazard. Give kids an easy way to stow toys. Secure skateboards, bikes, and other mobile toys in a safe area where family members and visitors won't trip on them.
Thank you, Councillor Hawking. All good reminders. I'm sure if you looked at anybody's stairs or toys, whether there's kids' toys or dogs' toys, cats' toys, they're always out and about on the floor. So good reminders. Thank you. So we have 2 delegations this evening, and the first one, 5.1, is we have Jeff Abrams and Janice Atwood-Pekowski from Principals Integrity presenting the Integrity Commissioner Report. So welcome, Janice and Jeff. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Good evening, members of council. See me in one box. I think Janice is another box on your screen. We're pleased to be here. We've been your Integrity Commissioners since February of 2019. This is our first periodic report to you. We call it periodic for obvious reasons. We don't tend to hit every annual, but it's a good thing, especially in the circumstance such as this, where we have this opportunity to reintroduce ourselves, to share our perspective on the ethical well-being of the town's elected and appointed officials, and we state our perspective on our role. Spoiler alert, tonight's report is very much a good news story. Just to remind everyone, particularly those who are watching council broadcast tonight, the role of the Integrity Commissioner is a rather broad one. Our functions range from assisting our client municipalities with their ethical framework, codes of conduct, other policies that govern ethical behavior, to provide education on those policies, provide advice on requests to members of council or members of local boards, or perhaps from council itself. We also provide a mechanism to receive inquiries, what are known as complaints under the Act, which allege that there's been a breach of an ethical responsibility. We try our best to resolve those complaints, and when it is in the public interest to do so, where it's necessary, we conduct full investigations and, if necessary, write reports to council, perhaps with recommendations. So when you look at that broad range of functions, it does contrast with the popular yet incorrect view that the role of the Integrity Commissioner is to be the sheriff or the cop. Our view is that we're better regarded as an independent resource, more like a coach or a teacher focused on enhancing the municipality's ethical culture. But because the role of being an advisor and providing education advice is not always a full solution, there is the role of being the independent recipient of complaints and resolving those complaints, and if necessary, reporting out on them. We see that as a residual role. It's unfortunately a necessary role. The code must have teeth, but the primary focus is on serving your interests, providing advice to you, and trying to resolve matters certainly early on. One of the characteristics of an integrity commissioner is that we work generally within this cloak of confidentiality. In some cases, the secrecy is mandated by the statute, but we certainly find that the promise of confidentiality encourages full disclosure by the people we're dealing with, whether that's on an advice request or in a complaint investigation. Now, bringing our attention to the activities here in Hanover in the period covered by this report, you may recall that in early 2018, before we were your integrity commissioner, we provided training to the county. We did it later on after the municipal elections. We were in the county in December of 2018 too. And the county in both instances invited members of lower tiers to attend, and you may well have been at those training sessions. And once we were appointed by you, we came in May of 2019 and provided education and training to both council and to members of your local boards. So as you recall, the advice function is an extremely important function for our client municipalities. It's confidential, independent, and in fact, when all relevant facts are disclosed to us and the situation remains the same, our advice can be said to be bulletproof. It bulletproofs you, it's binding on us. So in other words, if you ask for advice, you follow the advice, the facts remain the same, no one can then mount a successful complaint against you. During the period covered by this report, we've had 2 requests for advice, both of them related to conflict of interest, which is the most common type of advice request we get. With respect to the complaint investigation and resolution function, during the period covered by the report, there were no formal complaints filed with us. Had there been complaints, we would have triaged them, determined whether or not they were within jurisdiction, for whether they're frivolous or vexatious, a trifling matter, that sort of thing. And once those thresholds are passed, we would have looked to define and narrow the request if the complaint, if it was necessary to do so, and seek early resolution. But if it was necessary to do so, we would have investigated fully and reported out. And it may well have been that there was in such a report a recommendation that either had sanctions or other remedial steps that we wanted the municipality to consider. So that's the sum total of our experience here in Hanover for the period covered by the report. But let's take the opportunity to look around the province. We have a very large client base. We have 40 municipalities across the province. We're well in contact with other integrity commissioners. So we have a sense of what is happening out there. And one of the major themes, of course, is avoidance of conflicts of interest. As we note in the report, we do have an approach with respect to conflicts of interest. We describe the interest as a disqualifying interest because it's broader than the narrow family class pecuniary interest you're used to considering under the municipal conflict of interest. There are broader considerations that every member of council is subject to. We call that a disqualifying interest. Your pecuniary interests under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act and those other interests that call it common law interests or apparent or perceived conflicts of interest. We, like in our codes of conduct that we recommend to municipalities, to bring those all together and provide a guide for members on how to avoid conflicts of interest. And so that's some work that we may down the road do with you folks. Moving on from conflicts of interest, another major theme that we see around the province is around, unfortunately, respect and lack of respect and disparagement. We see an unfortunate trend in which in some places the type of political discourse we've observed has resembled that which we've seen in that country south of us in recent years. It started to trickle in. And so instead of direct, passionate, honest engagement and discussion on important issues, we've seen labeling of opponents. So you label somebody unprofessional or biased, or you're anti this, you're anti that, other forms of name calling and whataboutism. You know, this may have occurred, but what about that other unrelated thing that occurred too? You know, distracting the discussion from the important features of it. Peripheral attacks, anger, raised voices, threats of litigation, general incivility, and of course we all feel fortunate that that's not the experience here in Hanover, but it is something that we should all be watchful of so that it doesn't take hold as a standard for discourse here. Another theme we've seen across the province is members of council not staying in their lanes and respecting the role of staff. This has occurred in municipalities large and small, where a member of council might be overstepping their role, attempting to take the reins to fix a constituent's problem, all with good motivation, but interfering with staff's role in serving and supporting the municipality. So there's a balance to be achieved in how you serve your constituents well, and an open, honest conversation with your staff, and how you can do that cooperatively is healthy and important. Earlier in the pandemic, we did see some concerns in some municipalities about democratic processes as municipalities move from in-person meetings to virtual meetings online. But that, for the most part, that problem seems to have been righted, and most municipalities are very much aware of the need to preserve democratic processes, and so we're happy to see that. That, members, is a very brief report. We've been very happy to serve you. It's been a privilege to serve you. I want to thank you, and I want to thank the Clerk's AO and everybody else with whom we've been engaged over the course of our time with Hanover for their cooperation and support. So with that, Madam Mayor, I'll offer to you if there are any questions, so we'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that overview. I have a question to start. I know it's up to each individual councillor to determine whether they have a conflict of interest or not. Is it appropriate for myself or anyone else on council to remind that individual that they may have a conflict?
Well, let me say that it's not inappropriate to offer a colleague on council a little bit of advice, out of the eye of the public, to make a suggestion, lend a helpful hand. That's not inappropriate. Of course, you're just triggering them to their responsibilities to make the determination or to reach out to somebody for the advice. And that somebody, fortunately, since March of 2019, is the Integrity Commissioner, because while members can't reach out to their own legal counsel or pay for their own advice, the fact of the matter is the Integrity Commissioner is available. That's one of our prime purposes, is to provide the advice. We do it at no cost to the councillor. The municipality bears the cost of our services, of course. And most importantly, the advice is binding, and that no one else can do for the member. So while you can be helpful to the member by making these suggestions on those complicated issues, it's a good idea that they come to us, and it's an hour and a half of our time in most cases to provide some written advice to the member to guide them.
Thank you. Council, questions, comments? I don't see any. So, all right. Well, very good. Thank you very much for attending this evening. We appreciate it. So,
thank you.
All right.
We'll see you again.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye now. Okay. So we have our second delegation, and this is Kevin Rosman he is the executive director. He is from the Grey County Federation of Agriculture, and he's going to give us the local agriculture update. So welcome, Kevin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, council and guests and staff and Facebook viewers. I'm not sure, Vicky, if you got the slides. It's easier to talk when the slides come up. on the computer than having split screen. Do you have that?
I do. Do you want me to share those? It'll just take me a minute to
Yes, please.
pull them up. Okay, sure.
It'd be easier for council and guests to follow through with it. So yeah, as Mayor Patterson said, my name is Kevin Rosman. I'm with the Grey County Federation of Agriculture. I have a farm just east of Hanover, not too far away from the old barn granite countertop, if you're familiar with that place. I just cash crop now. I had was a dairy farmer down in Perth County, and I moved up here, I guess it's going on 9 years ago now. I've been a director with Grey County Federation of Agriculture for 8 years in various positions. Never been brave enough to be president yet, but maybe someday. So yeah, thank you, Vicki. So yes, Farms and Foods Forever, Grey County Agriculture. Next slide, please. Ontario Federation of Agriculture, or the OFA, represents more than 38,000 farm families. We advocate for farmers through government relations, farm policy recommendations, and lobby efforts. Support 52 county and regional federations. Member service representatives provide frontline service to the members and farm policy research staff to keep on top of regulatory and legislative matters. This year, the Grey County Federation of Agriculture is celebrating 81 years. We also have a public speaking competition that we've done virtually this year. It's 75 years this year. Last I checked, we had lots of schools in Grey and in Hanover as well that provided lots of videos that we have to mark and judge, and then we'll get back to them with the results. As you can see, we were formed in 1940 to work on local level, on a local level, to represent the voice of the farmer in Ontario. Currently, well, that's for the last year. This year, we have an increase in members. We'll be over 1,600 members in Grey County this year. Grey County Federation of Agriculture works to advance agriculture in the rural communities through partnerships, education, and advocacy. Works with the OFA to provide lobby efforts and resources for local members. And there's our resources if you want to go on to the websites and see what the OFA is all about. So the Grey County Federation of Agriculture and the OFA, we have a lot of the same tasks, but as you can see, we also have our individual identity as well. Regular county meetings, MP, MPP, and local politician meetings. We have one coming up here in March. Information meetings. We have a new thing on Facebook that we have shed talks right now, where I have a different topic whenever we have a shed talk, and a bunch of farmers can get together and mingle. And we hope that when COVID is over and we can get back to being in person, that we will be able to have shed talks live. We host all candidates meetings, annual ag review paper affiliated with Farm and Food Care Ontario and Ag Space. As I said there, the elementary public speaking contest and ag career education and social events. For the OFA, represent Ontario members, grassroots policy development, farm business registrations, access to 21 experienced, knowledgeable member services representatives, exclusive discounts and promotions through OFA membership, highly skilled farm policy research staff, educational opportunities province-wide, and webinars and training opportunities. And for both, represent Grey County members, advocate on issues, legislation, regulation, lobby provincial and federal governments, advocate for agriculture and farmers working for farmers. And the share of Ontario's farm cash receipts comparison from 2011 versus 2016. If you look at the pie chart there, we're fairly diverse, but there is also our fruits and vegetables, which coming from Perth County originally, I was really surprised how much fruits and vegetables was in Grey County when I moved up here. Dairy is still very much a part of up here. But then you look at the other side and you can see that there's the dairies went down, cattle and calves has went up. So like with my career, I changed careers a few times already in my farming because whether with just regulation or you just simply get burnt out and try something else, farming is still very much a part of Grey County. Next slide, please. The agriculture and food industry, 1.4% of Ontario's population are operating farms. Agri-food sector is the #1 driver of the provincial economy, generates 47.7 billion to the Ontario GDP, creates 837,000 jobs. And Ontario farmers produce more than 200 farm and food products. And the economic contributions of Grey Farm production to the provincial economy in 2017, the number of jobs is 23,918. And you can see how much in the millions that we give to the economy. Next slide, please. The agriculture in Grey County, the total number of farms is 2,304 farms. Total farmland area, 495,483 acres. The largest farming industry is beef cattle farming at 693 farms. Major field crop, the hay at 120,581 acres. Major food crops is 3,352 acres, and major vegetable crop, which is sweet corn, at 49 acres. The estimated farm cash receipts by the county and crop in the millions in 2018. The steer and slaughter heifers was predominantly the most. I guess Grey County is known for being the cattle county of Ontario. And dairy was next up in second. I think a lot of people nowadays, you can't really just focus on one product to produce, because right now cattle prices are pretty good, but corn and soybeans are just through the roof here now, where it's taking the profits out of anybody that has livestock, because your cost of production with the feed is more than what you're getting for your animal at the end. Plus, you probably paid more for that animal when you brought it in, and if you didn't have your feed bought and prepaid, then you're taking quite a hit now. So it's very volatile. When one industry is thriving, the other one is usually hurting. Yeah, next slide, please. The Grey County top commodities in blue as a percentage of provincial total in 2018. And you can see the pie charts of the heifers at 12%, honey at 10%, barley 15%, calves at 8%, sheep and lambs at 10%, 7% in fruit, maple products at 8%, and 10% of forest products. Grey County's farm cash receipts as a percentage of the province in 2018 is 3%. Grey County Federation supports OFA's provincial priorities, natural gas, with more and more cash crop, less pasture in Grey County. There's more demand then for grain dryers, which predominantly run on natural gas, being the easiest, and running on propane. Broadband internet, we all know with the school shutdowns here and remote learning, I know in my house here that having a good internet source was key to having the children online. Supporting our schools and our transportation and our roads and bridges. And I don't think I have to speak to council on how ongoing it is in every municipality to try to keep up on all of that infrastructure. Grey County Federation of Agriculture's three key priorities for 2021: membership engagement, and we try to do as much as we can on Twitter, Facebook, having the shed talks. The youth and farming. When we do our public speaking competition, we have, of course, our first, second, and third in the primary and secondary division. And then we have an ag speech where they get an extra little bit of money and certificate. And if they go to county and become the first place winner, then they get to go on to the Tommy Cooper Awards banquet and they say their speech there as well. And of course, healthy farms and the environment. If we don't have a good environment, then we don't have the ability to grow healthy crops and prosper and feed the world. The youth member engagement. According to the 2016 Census of Agriculture, Grey County added young farmers at more than double the national rate, with a 20% increase in farmers under 35. We saw a 61% increase in gross farmer seats between 2011 and 2016. Young farmers are the key to agriculture's future. We want to ensure they feel supported and welcome in the OFA farm community. We know that our strength and our capacity to influence policy is tied to our members and their willingness to participate. Healthy farms and environment. Farmers in Grey County, represented by the Grey County Federation of Agriculture, support the philosophy that farmers play a lead role as stewards of healthy land, air, and water environment. Farmers in Grey County have a strong history of embracing initiatives that promote a healthy environment. Programs such as the Environmental Farm Plan, ALICE, and farm practices that include cover cropping, no-till, and others that are gaining momentum. Grey County Federation of Agriculture is advocating for more communication between the conservation authorities and the farm community. And Grey County Federation directors, Paul Wetlaufer for West Grey, Michael Ryan. You probably don't need any introduction to him. He spoke quite a bit on our farm tax ratio. Myself, Alan Hughes from Meaford, Keith Reed from Meaford, Diane Booker, which is our president from Meaford, Jackie Pennings from Southgate, and she's also our administrative assistant in Hanover. Hugh Simpson, our past president from Grey Highlands, and Mayor Paul McQueen from Grey Highlands. And our professional team is ready to help. Contact information, as I said, the Grey County President, Diane Booker, the Grey County Federation office in Hanover, our OFA Zone 2 Director, Paul Vickers, and he's from the municipality of Meaford, and our OFA Member Services Representative for Grey Bruce, Joanne Hughes. And I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to council tonight. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Good presentation. Just before we open it up to questions, I'd like to say, although Hanover is urban, agriculture is a part of Hanover. If you think about it, we've got a large chicken farm operation within our boundaries. We also have a poultry processing plant, which is one of our largest employers in Hanover, and the P&H Milling Group, which produces flour and maybe more, is the largest Canadian-owned milling company. We also have a large family-owned and operated trout farm, and we have the harness racing at the racetrack with the spin-off for jobs and businesses that come from that. So when you think of it, we are involved with agriculture, not like some of the other communities, but we do have some large operations. So with that, I'll open it up to questions or comments. Councillor Hocking.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks, Kevin. I was just wondering, in your educational sessions with your members, do you ever talk about the carbon footprint that agricultural products leave when you talk about the environment? And then my second question is, I was reading an article from Bill Gates the other day, and he indicated that there's a really a huge growing industry of entrepreneurs who are coming up with artificial beef products. Do you have any comment on those two issues?
Well, to talk to the carbon footprint in your first question, as I had said, with the different tillage practices that we can use now, back 50 years ago, no-till, I don't think anybody was brave enough to not plow their fields because it was such competition in the neighborhood, for one. And the equipment wasn't big enough to actually do a no-till crop, that they ended up, they worked the field several times. So from then to now, our carbon footprint is substantially lower than it was 50 years ago. And the bottom line of the farmer depends on how much he spends on his inputs and how much he gets out at the end when he sells his crop. So I know there's lots of research out there that cow farts are polluting the environment, and we should be feeding them. I think lemongrass was the last thing I seen that we're supposed to be feeding the cows. I really don't know. Like, as farmers, as I said, if we're not healthy to the environment, then we're out of business. There's always going to be somebody out there that says that the farmer's doing it wrong, or he's polluting the water, or he's polluting the air. I know myself, I live on well water, so I'm not going to dump something on the ground that's going to get into the water and potentially poison my family. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
I understand.
On the artificial beef industry, have you heard about this?
Oh, I've heard about it. I've never went and purchased one of those burgers that they've been saying is so good. I guess if you want to eat something from a test tube, go right ahead. But I work for Shouse Land and Cattle outside of Walkerton there. I've been there for a little over a year now. And big farmers all get the bad rap that we don't take care of our animals, and we don't do this and we don't do that. If you don't take care of your animals and are humane to them, and yes, at the end of the day, they do go on a truck and they get processed into our beef. But I'm not sure that making artificial meat, when they're putting more chemicals in it than anything that would ever be in an animal. Like, we don't put chemicals in our animals, but antibiotics and all that are out of the system before it goes to the processing plant. I'm not sure making artificial meat is, first off, healthy. And yeah, I wouldn't try it myself.
And my other final question, if I may, as a former dairy farmer, could you give me a comment on Buttergate?
So that's where I read a little bit about it, and I can't remember off the top of my head what they say they're giving the cows to make the butter softer.
They're apparently giving them palm oil.
Yes, that was it. I've never gave a cow palm oil. If anybody knew how butter was made, I guess in the end of the day, if you want soft butter, then buy the artificial plastic margarine and have that. If they are feeding palm oil to cattle beasts, then I guess good for them, but I'm not exactly sure how it gets through the cow to make the butter, because it has to go into the milk and then go in and process it from butter. Sorry.
No, that's exactly right. I just thought maybe you knew something more than the media did. If it's
no, and I don't know if you can believe everything you hear in the media either.
That's true.
A good story a good story is going to sell newspapers and TV time. To add on to that, when my dad was a kid, my grandpa used to feed turnips and mangoes to the cows, the dairy cows. And they always swore that if you fed that before you milked the cow, you could taste the mangoes coming out in the milk. So you had to feed the cows the mangoes after you milked the cows, so you didn't make the milk taste like mangoes. So if they're putting palm oil in, I would imagine it's coming through in taste as well. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Dickert, Councillor Fleet, and then Councillor Fitzsimmons.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's more of a comment than a question. And thank you, Kevin, for your presentation. And just, I was very pleased to see the increase in farmers under the age of 35 coming into the industry. It wasn't that long ago. It seemed that they were really struggling to attract young people into the farming industry, and I think it bodes well for not only the farms but for the whole area here, because when those young couples come, there's usually some second careers that come with them, whether they be in the healthcare industry or teachers or whatever that case may be. So just it is good to see that the younger people are taking root in that farming industry, and congratulations to the OFA for their efforts in making that happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Warren.
Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Kevin, for your report. I was just reading in a newspaper called Farm Ontario, and I noticed that there were 7 inducted into the Ontario Agricultural Hall of Fame. And I noticed one of the gentlemen was a Stan Eby from the Walkerton Kincardine area, and he was quite involved with the Walkerton water tragedy and quite a large beef farmer. I just think it's great to see somebody from, I know it's not Grey County, but it's great to see somebody from this area being recognized with this award.
Yeah, I was really pleased to see that too. I know the Ebys, and Stan was on the Cattlemen's for a great number of years. I know when I was in my younger days, you always seen the name Stan Eby, and it was never anything ever said bad about him. It was always putting the industry first and trying to get the best out of what we possibly could. So it was really good to see that he got inducted.
Yeah, it's really nice to see somebody from Grey Bruce. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Fitzsimmons.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your report, Kevin, and certainly very appreciative as a young kid raised on a farm myself of all the work that the Ontario Federation of Agriculture does. And I'll echo Councillor Dickert's comments about, in particular in Grey County, the great work that the OFA is doing to get more young farmers in our area and at double the national rate, which is awesome. My question for you is, we see your 3 priorities, including getting more youth involved. You're obviously doing a great job of that. What do you see as the biggest issue of concern for OFA members in Grey County right now?
Personally, I guess for myself, has to be the roads and the infrastructure. Yeah, I live in West Grey, and we have quite a number of bridges that are either too low of tonnage or not even safe enough to keep open. If you go and talk to other farmers, the machinery isn't getting any smaller, and that's just because farms are getting bigger. You'll see less fence rows, so fields are getting bigger. I know one day I was coming home from work, and I was coming across the concession 4, and there's a bridge there, and tubers like to launch their tubes there. And we're tourists, we have campground, or we're a tourist county, we have campgrounds, but they park out in the middle of the road, and I was following a combine with a head on, and it wasn't any more than 20 feet, which is legal enough to go down the road. And he had to weave in and out of the vehicles to get through. And that really irked me, because they're out having fun floating down the river, and the rest of us are out trying to get our crops off. I think that's, if you were to ask a lot of farmers, it would have to be transportation. Bridges, it's not the actual cost of the bridge, it's the engineering and it's everything else that's behind it that slows up the process. And when most of the bridges were built 90 to 100 years ago, nobody would have ever dreamed that you had a tractor with duals in the front and duals in the back that would almost take up the entire road to get down. So I think as farming organizations and councils, we have to try to find a common ground to try our best to get our roads and our bridges in better shape than they are. And it's not just in West Grey, or Hanover will attest to having tractors crossing there at the Canadian Tire lights, just on the outskirts of town there. That's one of the ways of getting from one side of Hanover to the other, because I don't think anybody's brave enough to go down past the casino. So yeah, that would have to be one of the biggest things that would be the agricultural interest right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. So Deputy Mayor Hicks.
Thank you, Kevin, for your presentation. I'm as someone who's been pushing very much for broadband. I'm sorry, my internet has not been the greatest tonight, so I missed the section on broadband. I heard you talking about natural gas, and then my internet cut out, sorry. So if you've addressed this already, I apologize. But the question is, what are you hearing from your membership with respect to broadband?
Well, we've had thank you first, Selwyn, for the question. We've had our SWIFT. Everybody's heard that in the news, and OFA has been a big push of that. And I know it's coming, and lots of areas are reaping the benefits, but it's not wide range enough at this point to, like, it still needs to get better. I know all of our meetings for Grey County right now are all on Zoom, and me living out in the country, I'm actually surprised tonight that I stayed connected and I can actually see everybody move on my screen, because that doesn't happen a lot. I'm also the vice president on the Hanover Lions Club, and my meetings there last week, I think I got every other word. So yeah, that's broadband infrastructure, natural gas. There's so many things that a farmer relies on to make him more efficient. So then, if he's more efficient, he can put more back into the local economy, and everybody prospers. Like Mayor Patterson said, you have agricultural industry in Hanover. I used to work for Maple Leaf Foods on one of those chicken farms in the maintenance side, and yeah, like it's an employer. It's a big employer in Hanover. If anything ever happened that they weren't there anymore, Hanover would suffer. So we need to get behind them as well. And out on those farms, I know the internet sometimes isn't that good either. So broadband internet we need really good, reliable internet.
Okay. All right, so anything further? Seeing none, I'll say thank you very much, Kevin, for the update. We appreciate it. It's always good to know what's going on in the agricultural world. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Okay. All right, so item 6, staff reports. I have 6.1. This is report PB 0321. The subject is the site Plan Control Agreement Bylaw for 2745632 Ontario Incorporated. It's from Mr. Tedford, our Director of Development and CBO. I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor before Don highlights the report. So I have Councillor Cable and Councillor Fleet. Don, you're up.
Thank you, Your Worship. The report PB 0321 is the site development agreement for 223 10th Street. On June 5th, 2019, not quite that long ago, Subjat ULA contacted the town with interest in purchasing the vacant property located at the corner of 10th Street and 7th Avenue for the purposes of constructing a new 6-story apartment building with commercial uses located on the lower floor. Subsequent to numerous meetings and discussions regarding the purchase process and the site plan agreement report from the CAO 1620 regarding 233 10th Street, with regards to developing and creating a letter of intent, was presented to council on July 13th, 2020. And on July 14th, the letter of intent was signed by Subjat and the town, commencing the discussions on selling the property, the vacant lot, to Mr. Subjat Ulad. If Vicky, if you could go to the, I did bring along my Planning Advisory Committee minutes. They have been ratified at the February 16th council meeting, but yet to be probably seen by, but anyways, this starts off about the project. On February 9th, Subjat, along with Ali, I guess it is, Malhotra, he's the principal architect on the project and been very good to work with. Abu Zadardan, civil engineer, and Raymar Maharbam, he's the traffic engineer, and he prepared a fairly extensive traffic report for that intersection. They attended the Planning Advisory Committee meeting, and it was an excellent presentation and an excellent review of the project. And they presented the 6-story rental apartment building that we see here as a concept plan, the site specifics for the property known as 223. Now, Vicky, if you could go to the site plan. Again, the project consists of 6-story all residential rental units, building with a small commercial area on the ground floor. The remainder of the ground floor will consist of an auxiliary spaces or uses for the apartments, including a vestibule waiting area, a party hall or multi-purpose room, gym, washrooms that'll support the multi-purpose room and also the gym, garbage and recycling, and also a moving area. This will be a total, there will be a total of 90 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, apartments, including barrier-free units on each floor. And just in the discussions last Friday with Subjat, there's a consideration now of probably making them all accessible, but not totally accessible, but everyone being able to turn into an accessible unit. So that's a major advance on the project there, because I think that's a push from the county accessibility committee. A total of 88 parking spaces, 57 of them underground and 31 on the surface, but they're also considered covered. 20 of them would be under the covered area. They will be provided. And if you this next floor plan, if you see how the building is now all of a sudden larger, if you go back to the other one again now, the first floor, the back parking where the handicap is, that's covered with the building area over top of it again. So that's a 5-story part, a part of the building over top of the barrier-free parking. And then the 6 floors up above our larger floor area. So the zoning also requires a total of 140 spaces. Parking in lieu bylaw will be required to offset the deficiencies in the parking spaces. And being that, our bylaw now is currently at $750 per deficient parking space, which would equal $79,000 that would pay into our parking in lieu fund, which would help us look for other parking spots in town close to the downtown core. And it's mainly a DIA likes to manage and operate our parking in lieu fund, which works. We've built parking spaces before with it, such as behind the drugstore and also behind Frankie's. Now is the rib or the wing place. As per Grey County comments, if you could go to the next slide, Vicki, I think that shows the survey. As per the Grey County comments, they are asking for the access into the underground parking would be you turn right into it and you turn right coming out of it on the 10th Street. It's something that their transportation and traffic report indicated wouldn't be required, but it's something that subjects agreed to because of the amount of traffic we have on our main street and with the county asking for that. Back in 2020, when we were purchasing these lands, you'll see that part 1 is a major piece of land taken off the side along the edge of the road. And then we've got part 2 at the top and part 7. And then we have part 9, which is down on the side of 7th Avenue. So parts 1, 2, 7, and 9 will be deeded to the County of Grey for road widening for County Road 10, which is our main street, and County Road 4, which is the main street, and County Road 10, which is 7th Avenue. So that has been on the books like that and not resolved until this point in time, as there was no development to take place, being that the town is the owner, and more or less advocating the development, and that we are responsible for transferring the land and creating the road widening, being the owner of the property in question. Again, as February 9th, PAC reviewed the site plan, associated studies, and recommended that the site plan proceed to council for tonight's planning control agreement. The minutes are attached again for your information. And again, these minutes were ratified at the February 16th, 2021 regular council meeting. Upon council's approval tonight, the site plan control agreement will be presented to council at their next regular meeting on March 15th, 2021 for approval. It is anticipated that the owner will proceed with within the next 2 to 3 months with the construction of the foundation, and the construction drawings have commenced as of this week, I understand, and they're moving forward with regards to getting this project started. The strategic link, there's no financial implications at this time, other than we will be going into our letter of intent, and there's other associated costs with the transfer of the land. The strategic link is it's a regional regional type center. It's also an economic development. It's tied to the community, and it also allows us to increase our municipal operations. And it's if you look at our strat plan for years, we've always have strived and waited years to find the right development for this corner. And I think council and previous councils, with their patience and with what they've come up with here now, they've finally maybe do have the development that is probably covering a lot of the strategic direction that we tried to put forward in the town's strat plan. So the recommendation is that the PD report 0321 Site Plan Control Agreement Bylaw 2704 to be received, and that council authorized the mayor and clerk to enter into the site plan control agreement to allow 2745632 Ontario Inc. to construct a new 6-story apartment and mixed-use building to be located at 223 10th Street as per the site plan prepared by N Architecture Inc. dated January 28, 2021. If there's any questions, Your Worship, I'd be pleased to answer them.
Okay, thanks, Don. Questions or comments? Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. Don, is there any concern over the number of parking spaces that are being provided with there being 88? And I guess I'm wondering, are some of those 88 going to be allocated to the retail location on the first floor, or are those 88 all for the residences of this building?
A total of 5 will be allocated to the 1,600 square feet of commercial area. The first floor is approximately 10,000 square feet, so it's a little bit over to about 16% or 10% of the floor area will be actually retail. So 5 of those parking spaces are required under the zoning bylaw. The rest are all contributed towards the 90 units. The bylaw, the way it's written today, if this building was had a 55 plus tenant goals, the parking could be reduced to 1 for every 2 apartments. So it could come down to 45 fairly quickly. Subject's aware of that parking requirement. I see Subjet has joined us now too, but his request was to pay and achieve those parking in lieu spaces, and he wants to know where they are, and he wants to make sure that he does have parking available for those apartment units. So I think with the parking spaces we have now, with as per the bylaw, with the parking in lieu, there'll be adequate parking for everybody in concern. Right now, I would imagine we would try and find most of those parking spaces with the Curling Club Legion parking lot area.
Okay. Further questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Hicks.
Thank you, Your Worship. Don, referencing the reference plan, I don't know if you can pull that up again, Vicky. I'm talking about parts 1, 2, 7, and 9, which you said were going to be for road widening purposes, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
So what exactly is proposed in terms of road widening?
It's already done. It was completed in 220.
Okay, so there's not further road widening. It's just a matter of acquiring.
No, we're just following up on what was approved in 220.
Okay, now
it should have been transferred back then, but there never was a request to do so, and we're following it up right now with the county transportation.
Right. So the way I look at the reference plan, if we look at part 1, right at the very corner, there's an angulated cut there, right?
That's correct.
But that doesn't exist in reality. Is that something that's proposed?
It doesn't exist where?
In reality, it's not an angulated corner there. It's a right angle.
If you could go back to the site plan, just a couple of back, Vicky. Just go back to the bottom, the next one. There's your angle right there on the site plan.
Okay.
That is that is okay.
Okay, thank you for that. And if I'm looking back at the reference plan again, parts 3 and parts 5, why are they specifically identified, and what's the purpose for that identification?
That's so somebody had access to that back piece of land back there where they didn't have ownership of the Queen's Hotel site itself, and they were allowed to park back in that triangular or that square area. If you notice, the property line, it shows the actual property was shaped like 2 squares offset by about 10 feet. So that was all owned by the Queen's Hotel property owners. When we ended up with the site, what we did to square it up was we bought parts 3, 5, and 6. Well, I know you might as well say 2 and 7 from one property owner. And then we bought 9 and 6 was a house, and we bought that. So we actually bought 3 pieces of property. When we bought that part 6 and 7, there was a right of way. There was actually a lane over 3 and 5.
Understood. Okay. I wanted to ask, well, 2 more things. One about affordable. Is there anything built into the plan here around having a certain percentage or any units at all being designated as affordable?
That as far as making them community or social housing or stuff like that, the answer is there is nothing that suits that definition as far as affordable that way goes. But I would imagine they will be attainable, they'll be rentable, and I don't know if Sidvat wants to answer a bit of that question too, but my answer is that's not my understanding that they're going to have any community. He may negotiate something in the future, or they may approach, community living may approach the owner, like Sidvat, and may discuss something down the road for something. There always is an opportunity to deal with landlords of very large projects like this, to have some sort of a community living component.
Well, that would be good to see. And I appreciate that they may very well be attainable or pushing towards attainable, but we've also identified in a very big way that there's a huge need in the county for affordable housing, and Hanover and Owen Sound being 2 primary areas where that issue is particularly acute. And lastly, with respect to the issue about right turn in, right turn out, do you anticipate that there might need to be a median, I would say on County Road, well, on 10th Street and 7th Avenue to prevent people from right turning in or left turning out?
So far, we have about 3 locations on our main street that actually tell people they cannot enter, Foodland being one of them right across the road.
Yes.
And I would say it's pretty well respected. Like, I don't think we haven't put a medium up there. We haven't put one up for the drugstore directly across from the town hall either. You may see one car a week or 1 car a month going against the grain, or going against most of the time people are following that rule. And they do it all the way down our main street, because if it's a very busy Thursday, Friday, Saturday, if you're turning left from the south side, you're going to turn right, and then you're going to go somewhere and turn left. It's just a normal. I know when I moved here, I didn't believe it, but I now do it as well. You just turning left, you'd have almost need a set of traffic lights at every intersection to turn left. But this one here, the traffic report actually spoke to the idea of timing the lights, that there could be some advantage to adjusting the lights. And we will get them talking with the county transportation. And with some timing on the lights, they could actually increase the amount of people going in and out of the building with regards to left-hand turns if they allowed them. And they thought that they should be able to allow them, but I think CIVDAT's agreed to the right in and right out, and it really will make an excellent traffic pattern for this building. And I think most people will honor it. I think if you're coming home at 2 o'clock in the morning and you're gonna make a left-hand turn in there where there's no other car in the road, putting the barriers up would maybe not. I don't see the barriers being needed at this time.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, other comments or questions? If so. All right.
If I could, I forgot, I should go on to the report itself, Vicki, and go to page 2 with regards to the schedules and the I'd like to just speak very quickly to the report. I just noticed that now. Rather than, or we can speak about it when the bylaw is being done next week, but this actually shows what's going into the report. If you could pull that up, Vicki. This is page.
Want to share screen?
Yeah, share the screen on that report. It's the second page in the actual agreement bylaw. There it is there. That, oh, I don't, can you expand? Oh, there you go. The schedules under 3, there is all the way up to B16. So if and when, if any counselors would like to, all of those reports, all of those schedules and mapping are all in our office. Brenda has access to them, or I would have access to them. They are part and parcel to the agreement and will be maintained with the agreement. And if you scroll down to what it calls site plan works, that first paragraph tells you just what I told you. And then there's the special stuff is that parts 1, 2, 7, and 9 on reference plan 16R 9870 will be transferred to the County of Grey for road widening purposes. That's where we get our authority to do that. This agreement shall be completed in accordance with the letter of intent dated July the 8th, 2020, and the agreement of purchase and sale dated March 13th, 2021. That the owner is required to complete a parking in lieu bylaw for 52 additional parking spaces at $750 at $39,000 total. That the owner will provide a right turn in and a right turn out for the underground parking fronting onto 10th Street. And those are the site specifics that come out of all the drawings. Other than that, everything that's on the drawings up above will be complied with. So that's, if there's any questions on those items, I'd be pleased to answer them, Your Worship. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Any other comments or questions? Deputy Mayor Hicks.
Sorry, Your Worship, just one last thing. I would say as a comment, if this project goes anywhere as nicely as the gas station went, it's going to be really, really good because these people have proven themselves. I just thought I would say that.
Thank you. Okay, we do have a mover and seconder. I will call the question. All in favor? That's carried. And I just want to say this is a wonderful opportunity for Hanover. Not only will it fill some of our needs for housing and all types of housing, because we do know the rental market is very tight. It will also create some jobs during the build. So I think it's just a great opportunity for us. So very, very well done. Item 6.2 is report PW03-21. The subject is the 2020 Drinking Water System Summary Report. It's from Mr. Cooper, our Director of Public Works. And I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. So I have Councillor Dickert and Councillor Hawking. Ron, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. This report has been follows the requirement of a Schedule 22 of the Ontario Drinking Water System Regulation that requires members of council to be provided with a report providing specific details related to compliance and capacity of our system. And this report is to be provided by March 31st of the year following. So we're providing this report based upon a summary of operations in 2020. It's actually been provided by our Chief Operator, Ted Knapp, who is also here with us tonight. I will go through kind of the basics of the report and provide you with an overview of it. The report summarizes the chemicals that we utilized in the water treatment process, which we are utilizing chlorine gas for disinfection, a product called PAX XL52, which we do use to reduce aluminum in the water. It assists with coagulation with the filtration of our rural lake and well number 1 water supply. We're also using another chemical, which is hydrogen peroxide, which we utilize for taste and odor from rural lake. That's on a seasonal basis, which in 2020, we utilized that from May 30th to December 28th. What I can report to you that during 2020, the water systems had no exceedance of the Safe Drinking Water Act. To get into the capacities, the yearly maximum day supply entering the plant was 5,709 cubic meters, which represents 37.1% of our treatment capacity of 15,406 cubic meters a day. That's what our plant's licensed for. Our total supply in 2020 increased by 1.9% over 2019. The maximum daily flow was 7,409 cubic meters, which was 48.1% of the water treatment plant capacity, and that occurred on August 13th. Hanover's water supply and treatment is adequate to meet the foreseeable future needs. Due to fluctuating demands and treatment processing, water systems can only be operated to 60 to 65% of their maximum capacity. So we're slowly increasing usage of our water. There still is some capacities away, but as we get closer, and Ted can attest to that, I know, until we have to look at ways of adjusting the flow rates of the various, we're running 3 supplies into the plant, 2 wells, and 1 from rural lake, adjusting the supply volumes to meet the demands. And just to touch a little more on that flow rate coming in, when we run in the winter, it shows the flow rates on pages 3 to 8 of this report. The run times would range from about 12 hours in the winter period to, in the summer, we're running up to around 16 hours on the daily average. So we're definitely getting up there at an increase. And in June, the average runtime was 18 out of the 24 hours a day that the plant was running. So another item which we comment on and we calculate on a yearly basis is unaccounted for water, and that's based upon, we have a metered flow leaving the plant versus consumption, which we get from all the meter readings in town. Then we do an estimate of unaccounted for water areas, which we do an estimate, but it is something that we have with relatively accurate expertise, knowing what the volume of that would be. We're coming up with our non-metered, unaccounted for water for 2020 being at 5.6%. It was at 5.2 for 2019. So it is similar. What the ministry looks at is the target is to be under 10%, and we are in that range. The further details of that is shown on page 9 of my report. And just to give an indication of that, that's unaccounted water for running at 5.6%. We also have other water which we're using through the treatment process. And what it shows on page 8 near the bottom, we show as 100% total water coming into the plant, total treated leaving the plant, be it an 88%. So we're using 12% all the water that comes into the plant is actually utilized for through the processing, backwashes, and flushing of our filters on an ongoing basis. The 2020 report is going to be made available at the municipal office in the public information document, and we will advise of locations to access this on the water billings that's going to go out. What I can do is just briefly run you through the data that's been provided that I have just mentioned. Flows are calculated on the pages 3 to 8. Pages 9, we go into details of estimate of non-metered water usage to come up with unaccounted for water loss at the 5.6%. Page 10 details on a monthly basis all our pumping hours of the various sources, turbidity, chemical usage. And that also shows yearly total and yearly average. When we get into page 11, this would be details coming from our SCADA system, which shows maximum and average flows, items like usage of in a milligrams per liter of the chlorine. And also we get into turbidity levels, which we have to maintain certain maximums. So it's an overall trending document that we put together for the plant. All our micrological testing, which is sampling, which is done on a weekly basis. We're providing a summary of those analysis, which we get back the reports to us on a weekly basis. That covers pages 12 to 23. We also go on to pages 24 to 28, which shows every time we're going out doing weekly samplings, we're taking a chlorine residual reading there. These pages in here, 24 to 8, show the various locations in town, which we're taking the samples and the chlorine residuals that are recorded. We also do quarterly test results, and the parameters as shown, which we test for, are shown on pages 30 to 33 of the report. Another one which we would have on the last page, which is 34, which does the calculation of two different parts of the sampling that we do. One is trihalmethanes, and on that, we're required to do an average of that. That's an indication of disinfection products in the water. We're running a total average, running average of that in, that's actually micrograms per liter of 31 micrograms per liter throughout running average of the year. The requirement of that, the limit is 100. So we're well below that. There is another thing which they do a test for, which is acetic acid. That running average is 12.7. And the limit for that one is 80, also in micrograms per liter. So we're well below the limits of both of those in terms of our sampling. In terms of financial implications, there's no financial implications with this report. And the link to strategic plan would be providing operations regarding sustainable municipal operations. And the recommendation in the report is that report PW 0321, the 2020 Drinking Water System Annual Report, be received, and the council acknowledge receipt of this report as per section 22 of Ontario Regulation 17003, and the report be made available at the municipal office. If council would have any specific questions going through the report, either myself or more technical and things, Ted would be both here tonight to address. Thank you.
Thanks, Rod. So I have Councillor Hawking and then Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks for your report, Ron. I just have a question on 34, and it's just of being inquisitive. Could you tell me why the micrograms is double the size or double the amount at the 14th Avenue when you in February compared you know, the two trihalomethane and haloacetic acid? The lab results are 20, 22, and then they go to 37 and 44, which is double. And then in February and May, there are 5, but then they end up with 21 and 18. Is there a reason for that?
My reasoning behind that would be that when we're sampling in August and sampling in November, we're sampling after the water running through the system is running at a warmer temperature. And that
Okay,
may actually increase the level of the sampling that we're testing for disinfection byproducts.
okay, fine. Thanks a lot.
Okay, Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Ron and Ted, for your report. The unaccounted water loss, 5.6%. Is there any steps being taken or like to try to reduce this loss?
I guess in terms of calculating the loss, when you look at the numbers, one of the larger ones when we're coming up with it is actually, and the most difficult to get a handle on would be loss when we would have water main breaks or a leak that's up there because of the period of time that it would be occurring for. But just trying to get a handle on it, and actually I would say the number of 5.6 is good for the system.
Alrighty, thank you.
Yes, I've seen it as over 10%, I believe, at times. And Ron, does that not depend on road reconstruction? As you reconstruct some of the older roads in town, then the water main breaks won't happen as often, but then the other roads become old, so it's sort of like a continuous circle.
That's right. We're always continuing doing improvements to our system, but we do so much infrastructure here, so much length, and our system keeps growing, and the age of something that happened a few years ago keeps creeping up on us, right. Just like life.
Okay, Ron. Councillor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Ron. Just curious, was there, and maybe I missed it, I was having some video problems there. The 1.9% supply increase, was that through plant upgrades, or where did we find the extra 1.9% supply?
All right, could you tell me what particular page of the of my report?
I'll have to find it here myself.
Oh, and under discussion, Ron, at the beginning of your report where it says the total supply increased from, and then your.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, the 1.9%. What that is showing us is we're metering supply coming out of the plant. We meter it on an ongoing basis. In 2019, it was so many cubic meters. In 2020, it was an increase, 1.9%. I guess we got to look at there's through 2020, we've had more growth, more residential homes being built. So I would say that would be an area there where it could see an increase. And other areas that there could be fluctuations is a little bit on year to year would be in terms of the usage, say for the summer, in terms of lawn watering. That can have a little bit of variance, but me seeing it being 1.9% increase kind of runs fairly closely to be able to substantiate that with increased growth.
So it's not
for the most part being residential.
Not so much a supply increase as a usage then? Is that what you're saying?
That number represents usage, metered usage coming out of the plant.
Okay, I misinterpreted that because when I read it, it said supply usage. I was just wondering, to me, I interpret that to say there was more water available to the system from the wells in the lake.
Okay,
No,
Brian,
Yeah,
you have comment?
Yeah, just to add to Mr. Cooper's comments, I would think that COVID-19 had a lot to do with additional usage during 2020, particularly the fact that people are staying home. They're not traveling, they're not outside of the home as much, so, and a lot more gardens. So I would suspect that that had a lot to do with it as well.
No, that's fine. I looked at it as a supply, not a discharge from their a usage number. So thank you. That explains it.
Okay. And Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Ron and Ted, for your report. I think this report does a really great job of highlighting the immense effort that gets put into testing our water system, and it's great to see that there's no exceedances, which is wonderful. I think it's easy to take for granted having that safe drinking water at the tap, and so I think this report does a great job of providing confidence in our drinking water system. So thank you very much for your annual report.
Yes, good work to the department for all they do. So, okay, I will call the question. All in favor. It's been moved by Councillor Dickert and seconded by Councillor Hocking. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Report item 6.3 is report PW 04-21. The subject is the reconstruction of 15th Avenue from 10th to 13th Street. It's the tender. It's from Mr. Cooper, our Director of Public Works. I need a mover and a seconder to put that on the floor. And I have Councillor Hocking and Councillor Fleet. So Ron, all yours again.
Thank you, Your Worship. This report deals with the tenders that we've got in for the 15th Avenue reconstruction project. The reconstruction of 15th Avenue from 10th to 13th Street has been identified as a priority in the town's asset management plan. This section of infrastructure was installed in the early 1960s and needs to be reconstructed. During the summer of 2020, we experienced a major break in a 2mm, that's an 8-inch water main, and also sidewalks on there, in particular between 10th and 11th Street, have significant joint separation. It's a 4-foot sidewalk and needs replacement. The project involves replacement of all of the infrastructure, sanitary, water, storm. The road will be reconstructed, including curb and gutter, sidewalk replacement, which will be on the west side in the location that it is right now. The engineering design was completed by Cobite Engineering in 2019, and Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks approval have already been received. So all approvals are in place and the project is ready for construction. The tender was advertised in the Post and on Bid and Go. We received 4 tenders by the closing time of Thursday, February 18th. The results are as follows: Curtis Smith Excavating, $972,000. Moorfield Excavating, $985,921.40. Cedarwell Excavating, $1,127,942.80. SAMRS Construction of $1,174,770.97. All of those would be excluding HST. The tenders received have been reviewed by Cobite Engineering for completeness and accuracy, and they have provided a letter and a recommendation for us, which they are recommending acceptance of the tender of Curtis Smith Excavating, Inc., the low bidder. Previously, Curtis Smith completed the 4th Avenue infrastructure replacement in 2019. Their quality of work and ability to complete the work was good, and they worked cooperatively with the residents. The tender is stipulated that the work would be completed by October 21st, 2021. A notice of the project that it has been approved by council and that we would be proceeding to tender has been provided to the residents. Once we're able to confirm the construction schedule through the contractor, we'll provide further notice to the residents in terms of things to be aware of during the construction process. The financial implications are the construction estimate utilized for budgeting purposes was $951,000, included a $62,000 contingency. And obviously with all the projects, we break them down into various infrastructure component segments for the project. The tender by Curtis Smith Excavating is over the 2021 budget by $21,000 or 2.2%. The additional funding required will come from tangible capital asset reserve fund. And just look back through the binder that was put together at budget time, and in that tangible capital asset reserve as of December of 2020, there was $313,717. So there is monies in that reserve. We are over by approximately water and sewer, we are under budget, but on the road, sidewalk, and storm, it's approximately $68,000 over the budget. The link to the strategic plan is sustainable municipal operations for continued maintenance, rehabilitation of our infrastructure. And the recommendation is that report PW 0421, reconstruction of 15th Avenue from 10th to 13th Street, tender be received, and that the project be awarded to Curtis Smith Excavating Inc. for a total cost of $972,000 plus HST, and further that the mayor and clerk be authorized to enter a contract with Curtis Smith Excavating Inc. That is my report. COBIDE have provided details of all the tenders received, and it shows all the estimate of all the 50-some tender items that make up the tender for a project of this nature. And I would be pleased to answer any questions that council may have. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Questions for Ron or comments? The first letter has gone out to the residents. That's correct, Ron?
That is correct.
Yes. Advising them that there is going to be construction, and further details, once we're aware of them, will be sent out to them. Normally we would have a, what do you call it, an open house, a meeting with all the residents, but because of COVID, we can't do that right now. So we'll get the information out to them one way or the other. So any comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item 7 is reports and correspondence for information. The first one is 7.1. This is report ED 01-21. It's the subject is the Community Improvement Plan Program launch, otherwise known as CIP. It's from April Marshall, our Economic Development Manager. Welcome, April.
Thank you, Your Worship. So if you recall, in November of 2020, we had finalized our community improvement plan, and that is allowing us to introduce a menu of incentives to spur development throughout the entire town of Hanover. So to this end, the included package has been developed as an opportunity to market the program and provide application instructions for those that want to apply. We also have are working with the Downtown Improvement Area, DIA. They are providing a top-up incentive. So any applicant within the defined downtown area will be automatically approved upon Town of Hanover approval for the CIP grant to receive an additional 10% up to a cap of $2,000 for their projects if they have to do with the facade or signage grant or accessibility improvements. So there's additional incentive to spur that kind of development in our downtown and keep up the great work that we've done through that facade incentive program. As well, we're working with the Saugeen Economic Development Corporation, or SEDC, and they're going to provide a loan product. So again, upon approval through the town for the grant, they are able to access a loan program that would provide 50% of the matching funds for the project, up to $20,000 with a 5% interest rate and flexible repayment terms. So both the DIA and the SCDC will administer their own grant and loan products upon our approval in the process. And other financial implications, we have been working with Grey County, and Grey County has been contributing to the CIP program, which we've been putting in reserves. So we've built up a healthy budget this year of up to $120,000 for implementation of the community improvement program. So I would like to utilize this opportunity to officially launch the program and open it up for applications. So this links to all of our strategic priorities through the various incentives and strategic priorities of the plan or the program itself. It touches on all of our strategic directions. And the recommendation being that Report ED 0121 Community Improvement Program launch, or CIP, which we'll call it, be received for information. I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, April. Questions or comments for April? I think this is a really good tool that's going to help us with attracting investment and redevelopment, and especially with some of our vacant land that people sort of shy away from on development. So it's really good to see we're moving forward with this. So thanks for all your work on that, April. Any other comments or questions, April? Okay.
Oh, I just wanted to add, you're exactly right. I'm getting interest from businesses that are thinking about expanding here, or there's some properties that have been vacant for some time, that this has already sparked some interest in those property owners or new businesses coming to do those upgrades in our community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting. Some of these vacant sites that you see, you just get used to them. You drive by them, they're vacant, and it's like, wow, you know, and then all of a sudden now there's an opportunity that people can, you know, it'll benefit them and the town. So good to see. Okay, so that's for information. Very good, thank you. Item 7.2 is report ED 02-21. This is the Hanover community profile for the year 2021 to 2022, and it's from April, our economic development manager. April, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, so this is included in your package is our community profile for 2021 to 2022. And we utilize this as an opportunity, again, to really put all the assets of our community into one place that is very visually friendly and that we're able to easily share. Again, it's good for investment purposes to share with those that are interested in our community and want to learn more. So what you'll find in the community profile, it talks about our vision. It gives a bit of a COVID-19 disclaimer just because things are changing so quickly. So, but we still want to highlight all of our assets, even if they're not currently able to be open or something along those lines. We talk about our location, our people, the workforce, housing. We give some fee schedules, and we really put an emphasis on arts and culture, parks and trails, those quality of life aspects, and just about doing business in Hanover, those economic development directions that we're working towards so that people can envision themselves in our community. We give different features on various assets such as the airport and launch pad, talking about the community improvement plan and some of our partnerships like Saugeen Connects and Grey County and Wowza and being a gig community. So I just really want to use this as an opportunity to profile our community highlights and really give people the statistical information that they're looking for. I will note that we still have the 2016 census information in there. So I know that this year the census is being updated. So upon that, then our community profile statistics will be updated as well. There are no direct financial implications to this report. And again, strategic direction or strategic plans touching on all of our strategic goals, being a community profile and highlighting all the different aspects of the town of Hanover. So I would like to add that to recommend that report ED 0221 Hanover 2021-22 community profile be received for information. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, April. Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Worship. So Rachel, where does this community profile, where is it located? At our main office? Or I assume it's online for everyone, but if you want a hard copy, where would you get one?
Yeah, so yeah, we definitely have it available on our website, and we will be printing hard copies that they're available for pickup, and we distribute them to our key partners. So like such as Saugeen Economic Development Corporation or the county, you know, like different stakeholders that we work with that would maybe be receiving questions about the town and want to provide some information. It's also a really good tool. I know we haven't been doing it a lot, but any outreach like such as trade shows or special events, handing them out that way as well.
Just a suggestion, I would suggest that each real estate office in our town get a copy of this sent to their offices with a letter saying that real estate agents are most invited to come and pick up a copy for any new citizen that moves to our community. I think it's an excellent document, and any new person coming to town, it would be a great resource to have. So the real estate agent could include that in their closing package with a copy of that for any new person that moves to town. Just a suggestion.
Yes. No, that's a great suggestion. You're absolutely right. Traditionally, or in the past, we have done that, and I would like to continue with that because you're absolutely right. It can be used as a welcoming package as well, right? So that people have all the information they need at their fingertips.
Good. Any other comments or questions? Deputy Mayor Hicks.
Thank you, Worship. And April, too, I do want to thank you for this. This is just a really excellent tool to have. I can see it as being used by a lot of people, business people who are considering the area, people who are considering relocating new people to the area, on and on and on. I have mentioned this one little piece before, and we keep forgetting it. There is, on page 10, I believe it is, of the document, there is an outline of the schools, and it talks about 2 boards. There is a French board, French core, and that should probably be mentioned. I've talked about this before, and there is the option for Hanover residents to attend French core education at Saint Dominique Savaillot. And that French community, it's small but mighty, but I don't think they should ever be left out, and they're left out in this document. Perhaps in a future version, we can address that again. I know my kids get on the bus every single day, and they go to the French core, not French immersion, but French core. And that's important for people to know because quite a few are looking at that option when they're considering an area. Is there a French school that my kids can attend?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. You're absolutely right. I remember having that conversation. I remember adding the Formosa school in, but we need to get the One Sound school in as well.
All righty. Okay, very good. All right, 7.3 is report HR 01-21. This is the multi-year accessibility plan progress report. It's from Melissa Hilgendorf, our human resources coordinator. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you, Your Worship. So you may remember that in 2019, Council reviewed and accepted a multi-year accessibility plan for 2019 to 2021, which is required under the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. That act is comprised of 5 standards known as the Integrated Accessibility Standards Regulation. So in addition to developing a plan, a multi-year accessibility plan under the regulation, you also need to develop annual progress reports on those plans. So that's what this report does for you this evening. The table within the report provides detail on the different sections of the regulations and goals and initiatives within each section, as well as our progress on those. So there's quite a few. I'm not going to go through them line by line, but I do want to highlight a few items. So you will notice that some progress or some initiatives were deferred just due to COVID-19 and the time that wasn't available to give these projects as much as we would have anticipated. But we did meet with a member of the community who gave us some ideas to further improve the accessibility of the family change room at the P&H Center. So after learning more about that, we have applied for various funding. We're still trying to get a hold of some funding for that, as well as to improve some other areas like features and washrooms and things like that. So still working on that one. A number of staff from myself, I'm headed for human resources, clerks department and economic development. I've attended some training on accessible documents. That's very important, and especially now that so much content is going online. We did also have an accessibility audit done of the town's website. So there was a refresh done, but still at the end of 2020, an audit was done with the web platform provider, as well as with support from our co-op student that we had from JDSS in checking and improving that accessibility of the website. We also implemented various formal policies and guidelines, such as accommodation plans, individual emergency response plans, and return to work. And we also included accessibility considerations throughout updates to our personnel policy. Beyond that, we have actively been participating virtually in recent months on the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee. So we bring initiatives to them for input, and we also are able to provide input, such as on items related to the Grey Transit route or an accessibility features map that they're working on. And in return, the committee's been very helpful for us, providing input on various site plans and things, as Dawn and Brenda have been so gracious to join the committee. We've gotten really good feedback that way. And we continue to work on the 2019 to 2021 plan throughout current year, and we'll have another report for next year's progress. So there are no financial implications associated with this report, and it does support strategic directives of economic development, community, and sustainable municipal operations. And the recommendation is that Council receive report HR 01-21, multi-year accessibility plan progress report for information purposes. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Thanks, Melissa. Any questions, comments for Melissa? Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you very much, Melissa. I think it's great that we're tracking our progress on achieving these identified initiatives. And I'm very excited to see what happens with your comment about awards for recognition of accessibility efforts. I think that's a great idea, and I look forward to seeing if that makes any movement in 2021.
Very good. Okay, I don't see any other hands. We'll move on. Thanks, Melissa. 7.4 is report PW02-21. It is the wastewater treatment plant operations report from October to December. and it's from Mr. Cooper, our Director of Public Works. Ron.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll take you through this report. Ted Knapp has provided the information, and basically it's a summary or snapshot as we go through the logbooks of activities that has happened in the period October 1st to December 31st at our wastewater plant. Just kind of highlight some major items in it out of the report. The final haulage of our biosolids was completed November 18th and 19th in 2020. Things went well, no incidents there. We did a maintenance item on there on the final clarifier number 3 at the West plant. They were having some issues with it, with the chain drives not operating smoothly. So drained the tank down, took the chains all apart, and there was some wear shoes on that, which we can turn and put in another direction, and it provides giving us more life out of the change in the running mechanism in that plant. That was completed in November. It was noted on there that there was some issues with the flare stock in late December. Got some control system parts ordered and replaced in early January. That system has functioned properly since then. Throughout this period, starting in October and continuing on through now, throughout the winter, you know, Wellington Construction has been on site. They're working on getting some processes for dechlorination of our effluent discharge to the Saugeen River. That's a process which comes into place starting May 15th and runs to September 15th. Throughout the winter, they've been working on, we got 2 clarifiers there where they were replacing the mechanisms in them. These would be items that would have been constructed going back to 1960s or maybe even a little bit before that. One of the clarifiers has been replaced, upgraded, and the second one they're currently working on. The schedule that they have would be late March, early April to have most of the site work done at the plant. There'll be some final restoration work, which wouldn't occur till into April or probably closer to May. But in terms of having all our systems up, tested, and knowing that they're going to function for the May 15th target will be happening early April. So that is good. There's no financial implications to the report. And once again, it's addressing or discussing operations regarding to municipal sustainability of the operations. If there would be any questions of council, myself and Ted is on the line here as well to address them for you.
Thanks, Ron. Any questions or comments? We're a quiet bunch tonight. The work must be good, Ron. I don't see any hands raised, so well done. So I know a lot of work goes into these reports, but we do read them. So, okay, very good. Thank you. Sorry, Ted, we didn't have any questions for you. All right, item 7.5. This is the 2020 Health and Safety Report. Is this Chief Deniger? Are you going to take this, or is it Melissa?
That would be me.
Ah, okay. It's all yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is a summary of what the Health and Safety Committee accomplished in 2020. It's just an overview of activities. Basically, the Joint Health and Safety Committee supports over 145 staff. This includes part-time, full-time, paid on-call, summer students, and many more. The focus of the committee is on health and safety concerns solutions to the concerns, and follow up on progress made regarding the concerns that have been identified. Members include Ken Campbell from Bylaw, who's a worker representative, Dan Fisher from Parks and Rec, who's a worker representative, Zach Smith from Public Works, who's a worker representative, Tom Carl from Parks and Rec, who's a management rep, and Paul Moose from Public Works, who's another management rep, and myself as a management rep. And then Melissa is our human resource individual who helps us with support. In 2020, there was over 174 inspections completed by worker and management representatives. These take place on a monthly basis, following a form laid out by the committee. 70% of the inspections did not require corrective actions. If corrective actions were identified, they were typically completed within 6 days, but most completed the same day. Most of the corrective actions were items such as updating postings on the Health and Safety Board, or fastening shelves to walls, or absence of portable eye wash stations are some examples. There were 22 accidents reported to the committee in 2020. Highest number of accidents was for impact injuries at 6. The second highest was for cuts and scrapes at 4. The committee reviews these reports to ensure that any trends or training issues are identified. There was two critical injuries reported to the Ministry of Labor, but neither resulted in any orders. 5 incidents resulted in lost work time, with the average loss being 1.25 days. One work refusal investigation was completed by the committee and closed successfully. Health and safety training was significantly impacted by COVID-19, with many of the sessions that were planned being canceled or postponed. The table in the report represents the items that were completed. Some were virtual and some were in small in-person groups. For COVID-19, the committee created an extensive return to work plan for staff after the first lockdown. This included standard operating guidelines, lesson plans, PowerPoint presentations, forms, posters, etc. 11 new infection control operating guidelines were completed to assist staff. When departments and user groups began to return to operations, the committee was instrumental in approving all plans from a staff health and safety perspective. In total, 66 plans were reviewed and approved. The committee did an excellent job of handling health and safety in general, but specifically through the COVID-19 pandemic. Their focus on staff health and safety ensured an effective and healthy return to workplace. 2021 will focus on continuing to mitigate COVID-19 concerns while ensuring the overall health and safety of staff is maintained. If there is any questions about the report, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Chief. I have a question. Is this the first time we've received this report? Okay, good.
Yes, it's something new. The committee wanted to inform you about all the good work that's been going on throughout the year with regards to health and safety.
Yes, and 174 inspections on top of all the COVID, everything COVID. Well done. Like, that's a lot of inspections. So good work for the committee. So. Okay, Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Chief, for your report. The 2020 accident injuries, exposure 3, what type of exposure to what? I'm just curious.
Exposure could be to anything. It could be a chemical exposure.
Right.
We also track exposures here at the fire department to critical to critical incidents. And so it could be any kind of exposure. Typically, these are reported exposures to typically chemicals.
Okay. Alrighty, thank you.
Any Councillor Hawking, then Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks for your report, Chief. I'm just interested to understand 174 inspections. Do you divvy those up among your committee members?
So actually, each department has to complete a monthly inspection of their workplace, and that's done by a worker and management rep. The committee themselves parachutes in to 1 per month, so each committee member takes a turn, basically ensuring that each department is is supported with the Health and Safety Committee members at least twice a year to ensure that the inspections are being done effectively, efficiently, and with Health and Safety Committee approval.
Thank you, and I appreciate getting this report. It was well received. Thank you.
Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you, Chief. It talks about on page 5 about the corrective action trends, some being fastening shelves to walls and some about portable eye wash stations. Are those things that we then have gone and purchased or made sure that those are corrected, or are those kind of future action items?
No, each inspection has an indication as to what was deficient, and then there is information on the inspection as to how long the management representative has to get that fixed. And Ministry of Labor says it's got to be done within 21 days. And typically, as you can see, it's done on an average of 6. Sometimes parts have to be ordered or equipment has to be installed. So that can take a little longer, but on average, it was 6 days. Some of it can be fixed right there or the next day.
Okay, thank you.
So Chief, on your the health and safety training under WMIS, it says 59. So is that full-time people or?
Oh, it's a variety. An example, the fire department, all of its members have to do WMIS every year. So it's a variety of individuals.
Do admin, does the administration get trained?
Yes, they do WMIS as well.
Okay, good. All right, very good. I don't see any further questions. Good report, thank you. Item 7.6, this is the Saugeen Municipal Airport Commission minutes from January 13th, which have already been highlighted at our last meeting, I believe. But Councillor Hawking, you were going to just do an update about the snowbirds?
Yes, thank you, Worship. As you know, we had an organizing committee meeting Saturday mornings. COPA 54, the local chapter pilots, was sort of spearheading it. And we met this past Saturday after consulting with Dr. Ara and the public health. And because of many uncertainties, we've decided to suspend the snowbirds for scheduled for June the 22nd. And we're making application that we can host this event next year. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a good decision. Okay, 7.7 is the downtown improvement area minutes. Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. DIA met on January 14th, 2021. Some of the highlights, the 2021 budget was discussed. JD Lyons prepared the draft budget on behalf of the board, and JD has presented that budget to council because it was February 1st. We discussed the community improvement partnership dissolved process, holiday shop and win promo, Christmas promo 2020, a social media 2021 promotion campaign. It was a $50 Groundhog Day fund draw was held, and it was very successful. We're also looking for another board member, and John from Johnny K Sports has been approached, and we're hoping that he might accept our invitation. That's all I have to report.
That's good, thank you. All right, 7.8 is a petition, and it's from concerned citizens about the location of the cannabis retail store at between on 11th Avenue, 513 11th Avenue. Councillor Cable.
I would make a disclosure of interest regarding the this item, just as my partner's a board member for a prescribed mentorship, which filed a similar appeal at our previous meeting.
Okay, thank you. So at this point, Mr. Teixeira, I would like to ask, what is the next steps with this? I know this is for information. can we do anything with this? Like when the commenting period opens up, if it does, is it our responsibility to send this in, or what happens?
Okay, so as we talked about last meeting, council passed a resolution, okay, that basically said they were opposed to this location for a cannabis retail authorization approval based on not being in the public interest as defined in the legislation. So council's only responsibility will be to, when the posting period opens, if it opens, and if in fact this particular application gets to that stage, to send a letter into the AGCO within that 15 days. This petition, I'll be quite honest, I'm not sure what the purpose of this is, other than to perhaps make a statement that there's a number of individuals surrounding that area that are opposed to this. But if they are opposed, just like council, they have to write to the AGCO indicating the nature of their opposition, and it has to be with respect to the public interest as defined in the legislation. So for all intents and purposes, this should be received as information, and those individuals should take it upon themselves that when the posting period opens to take it to the next step.
Good. Okay. Thank you. All right. So that is all the reports and correspondence for information. So moving on, item 8, planning and other meetings. So we have our Planning Advisory Committee meeting, which will be Tuesday, March 9th at 5 p.m. We have a notice of a public meeting, which is Monday, March 15th at 7 p.m. It is regarding Special Policy Areas 1 to 4, Official Plan Amendment LOPA number 3. Our Age-Friendly Committee meeting is on Tuesday, March 9th at 2 p.m. Our Economic Development and Cultural Roundtable Committee, they're having a joint meeting, which is on Wednesday, March 17th at 9 a.m. Our Heritage Committee meets on March 18th at 10 a.m. And Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory, they meet March 24th at 7 p.m. So dates to remember, our next regular council meeting is March 15th at 7 p.m. The municipal office will be closed on April 2nd, which is Good Friday, and Easter Monday, which is April 5th. Our next regular committee of the whole meeting is Tuesday, April 6th at 7 p.m. See, just like that, we're into April. We haven't even gone through March, we're into April. At this point, I'll ask, are there any notices of motion? So I don't see any, and we do have a closed meeting this evening. So let me just read this. Closed meeting that the Council of the Town of Hanover meet in closed session in order to address matters pertaining to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. So I need a mover and seconder to go into closed. So I have Councillor Fitzsimmons and Deputy Mayor Hicks. All in favor? That is carried. So Council, let's take a 5-minute break and come back, and we will be in closed at that point.